Hello everyone, it's Leo, and it's time to talk about episode 33 from Healing Good PreCure, which was an adorable Nodoka episode. I really liked this, it was very entertaining, the drawings were very beautiful, and I don't know, kind of emotional at some parts. Very, very nice. So right at the start we have Hinata, full of personality. I really love when they do those cartoony faces. I'm rewatching Happiness Charge right now, and this is one of the things I really miss in PreCure. And when we have those little moments with Hinata, it's a delight to me. And right at the start, we have a very interesting scene. I loved that scene in which Nodoka says, okay, I need to do something. I cannot go with you. And she says she's going to meet someone. And Hinata's like, oh, so do you have a date? Is it a crush you're meeting? And then she looks at an old man there. And I'm like, girl, there's definitely someone in this room that has a big crush on that doctor. Not telling who it is. But anyways, that is the doctor that took care of Nodoka when she was sick, a little before Healing Good PreCure started, right? We all know what happened and what caused that sickness. And so right at the start, I really liked that little moment we had between the doctor and all of the girls. It really shows how Nodoka feels about her friends because he knows the name of each and every single one of them. He knows because Nodoka talks about all of her friends in the letters she sent him. So he knows who they are and, kind of like what they do as well. And also that was very funny, seeing the way he was holding Latte. And it felt to me that since he's a doctor, he was holding her like you would hold a human baby. And Latte was feeling super bothered by that. So she went on running. Nodoka went on running after her. They really liked that scene for one specific reason, which was at that moment, the doctor could really notice that Nodoka was feeling healthy and happy, energetic. She was living her life as a child should live. But then the next scene showed the complete opposite. We have Daruizen. We had Nodoka very happy and smiling. And then at the next scene, Daruizen. He was frowning. He was sad. He was anxious. Because the other two generals infected themselves. Daruizen was the only one who didn't infect himself. But the most important thing to me was that scene was really them trying to show the big difference between Nodoka and Daruizen. They are opposites. Right now, they are complete opposites. One is happy, full of friends around her. Her life is full of smiles. And then Daruizen on the other side. His life is dark, sad. He has nothing to smile about. He's always angry about everything. He doesn't feel anything good. So that transition between both of the scenes was incredible. And we all know how Daruizen was born. He was born from Nodoka. And when he went out of Nodoka, that's when her life became full of happiness. So that was this big contrast. I loved it so much. But I'm going to talk about Daruizen later. Let's talk about the big thing about this episode, which was the fact that the doctor is retiring. And when he announced that he was retiring, we had a very nice scene at the Sawazumi Inn. He was eating. Asumi was super happy that she was eating, but obviously she had to go and say, I wish Latte was here. But then we had Chiyu there, giving lots of foods to Latte and to Rabiri and Pekita. That scene, oh my god, I loved that scene so much. But then when Nodoka noticed that the doctor was going to retire, she felt that she had a big responsibility on that because he mentioned that he felt very sad and kind of like irresponsible and not capable enough because he couldn't correctly understand Nodoka's illness. And so she went onto the bedroom to ask Rabirin if she could tell him the fact that what caused that disease was the Byogen, blah, blah, blah. And obviously Rabirin said, we need to talk to Queen Teachinu first. And girl, no one talks to Queen Teachinu. No one even remembers she exists in this series. So that is out of the question. But at the end of the day, Nodoka couldn't talk to the doctor. And that was a very sad part for her. But then she went on to talk to him in private. And the doctor actually told her that he wasn't really retiring because of that. He was actually changing careers. By noticing that he couldn't help her, he guessed that there was something else for him to do. He, instead of, taking care of people, he could research and discover new types of illnesses and discover new types of treatment. So he's going to go abroad and study to become a researcher. I found it very nice. And it was basically, I think that the whole drama was basically a lack of communication. And Nodoka was feeling sad because what happened to her was making him, change and give up on being a doctor. And that wasn't really it. And it was because of what happened to Nodoka that he decided to change his careers and do something different, but not only different because he wanted to or he wanted to change. No, he was actually focusing on becoming a better person for the health community in a way. And that was very, very heartwarming. The way they talked and the way everything happened between both of them. I really loved that scene. Nodoka is very precious. And, the way she was feeling happy for him and the way she was feeling relieved that her disease, her illness didn't cause him to give up on being a doctor. Actually, it made him, seek something different and become even kind of like a better version of himself. So Nodoka, kudos to you. And let me just say something. I think Aoyuki is doing a fine job at being Nodoka, but sometimes I feel like she could go all the way and sometimes she doesn't. In this episode, I think she did. I think in this episode, she was very, very good. Like, she is that stellar voice actor that she is, that we know she is. And in this episode, she really delivered. And so we go to the next day in which the doctor is going away and Nodoka promises to go visit him when she is older and go visit him abroad. Girl, what a promise. And then the new Daruizen attacks. I really need to talk about Daruizen. I'll leave that for later. So the doctor is infected, the girls transform and go try to save him. And look, I think that sometimes the animation can't really deliver fighting scenes after fighting scenes, like great fighting scenes one after another. We had a great fighting scene in episode 31, and now we had great ideas in this episode, but the animation wasn't really there. But still, I love when we have those great, choreographic scenes, even if they're not the perfect and crisp, sharp animation. I love it. And the fighting scene in this episode was very good. It was very different from last episode because last episode we had a Giga Byogen, but it felt very weak. It felt just like the regular Mega Byogens from before. This one felt very strong and the doctor was using a mask. So if you leave your house, wear a mask. Even the Giga Byogens are showing that to us. But then, the fight, the girls had a very, very hard time in this fight. And I was impressed to see because I was expecting them to nerf the Giga Byogens from now on. But no, girl, no way. They are really delivering. At least in this episode they did. The Giga Byogen is strong and the girls had a rough time. One thing I loved was, again, the duet. Fontaine and Earth, fighting again. And Earth creating that typhoon and Fontaine riding in the wind. Girl, that was so cool. And again, the animation didn't deliver 100%, but for me at least, it doesn't matter. What matters is seeing great fighting scenes, even if they're not the perfect animation. Because honestly, we're talking about a show that runs a year, like 50, almost 50 episodes. So it's impossible to have great animation in every single one of them. But even if you can't have great animation in every episode, you can at least see like those nice choreographies in battles. Girl, it was so cool. And then like the girls got defeated, even Earth got defeated, which is not a first, but a second. And Grace was the only one that was, standing. And then she had a confrontation between her and Daruizen. And last episode, in episode 32, we had a big moment from Pure Fontaine in which she powered up a little because of her motivation. And this time around, we had this with Cure Grace. And then when Fontaine and Sparkle came back from the ashes. Not really, but they came back because they fell down very far away from where they were fighting. They came back. Girl, that was so cool. So cool seeing them use the bottles. Actually, Sparkle was the only one who used the bottle. And Fontaine just used her water powers. Girl, that was so nice. I feel like, why didn't Healing Good use that before? 33 episodes in and we see something like that. Come on, it was so cool. I really, really loved it. And then they were able to defeat the monster with lots of powers being used at the same time. Cure Earth using the sound bottle, playing the harp. Girl, that scene was everything. I loved it so much. And, they were able to defeat the monster and everything, and the girls were happy. And at the end of the episode, Nodoka said that the doctor is now going abroad, trying to defend people, and her way of defending people is defending people from the Byogans and destroying the Byogans. In the magazine scans, we saw that Nodoka was deciding to be a doctor. It didn't really happen in this episode, but I feel like it could be a step for her to have this realization in the future of Healing Good. Let's see the future steps. Now, about Daruizen. So, the first time we see Daruizen in this episode, it's when he infects himself after he was scolded by King Byogen. For the first time, we see King Byogen getting a little angrier than he usually is. His face even got bigger. I was like, what? And I loved that scene because it's nice seeing a little bit more personality on King Byogen. And King Byogen is too lenient on his minions. And now he was really there. And Daruizen infected himself. And one thing he said when he infected himself was that he was doing it for himself, not for King Byogen. But the fact is, I think he was just trying to convince himself. And I'm going to get to that a little later. Because he wouldn't infect himself if it weren't for King Byogen to pressure him as he did this time. So, yeah, I think Daruizen girl, boy, you weren't really infecting yourself for yourself. You were doing it because you were told to. But then we have the new Daruizen. And honestly, I think he looks horrible. Out of the three of them, he looks the worst. His face looks awesome. Actually, I love his face with the little makeup and his hair getting a little longer. I really loved it. But his costume, girl, just no. It didn't work for me. I didn't like him. His fashion sense, meh. It's a boot for me. Please leave a comment if you get the reference. And then we get to the fighting scene between him and Cure Grace. And for the first time in Healing Good, he lost his cool completely. He's always teasing, he's always playing, he's always, trying to get the best out of the girls with his sassy attitude. But in this episode, he completely lost it when Cure Grace said that she and the others, they're always supporting each other. They're always there. They're always rooting for each other. And I'm going to tell why I think that happened and why I think he snapped when he did that. Right at the end, when they defeat the monster, he looks at them and says, "I am me." He just says that. And that doesn't really tie into anything that they talked about in before that. It doesn't really tie to anything. But then I started thinking, and what I understood is Daruizen, he suffers from a lack of existence. He was born from a person, so he isn't really a person. He's just a disease. But at the same time, he has a conscience. And while the other two don't really seem to care, I mean, Guaido doesn't care about anything. He's just crazy, as he always is. And Shinoini just cares about King Byogen and pleasing King Byogen and trying to look pretty for King Byogen. In Daruizen's case, he doesn't seem to have an end goal like the other two. It seems he's discovering more about himself, and he has more of a philosophical way of looking at him. And He always says that he's doing everything he's doing for himself and not for King Byogen. But what does he have to gain over this? I don't think he has to gain much, but instead I feel like that is the only way he found himself. That is the only way he found himself to be useful, and that is the only way he found himself to be, you know, like that is his whole existence. That's what he was born for. And so at the end of the day, that's everything he can do to feel alive. And so when he sees Nodoka having friends and being able to rely on them, being able to fight with them, and you know, one of them makes the other stronger and one is uplifting the others. He doesn't have that. He has nothing. And at the end of the day, all he has is himself. Because no matter what happens, if he needs Shindoini, she won't be there. If he needs Gwaru, he won't be there. And especially if he needs King Byogen for anything, King Byogen won't be there for him. You can be sure of this, and he knows this. So there is this big emptiness inside of him, and the only thing he has for him is himself. That is why I believe that when he went away, he said, I am me. He is affirming his existence because he is alive. And at the same time, he snapped, seeing that Cure Grace has everything, and he has nothing. With that, I finish. I didn't want to get this philosophical over Daruizen, but that's how I felt. And I just want to take this a little time to thank all of the members of the Magical Cinnamon channel. If you are a member, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. I really appreciate your support. I really appreciate that you are, you know, rooting me up, just like cures do with each other. Thank you so much. And if you're not a supporter, but if you've watched everything up until now, thank you so much as well. I really appreciate it. And you also helped me a lot. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bye bye.